Kind thanks go to Brilliant for sponsoring today's episode. The FAA has released a new SpaceX Starship environmental assessment, depicting SpaceX's Starship and Super Heavy plans for the next 12 months. Are we really only going to see 5 launches next year, or are we in for a lot more action? And how exactly will Mechazilla work? Let's find out.
What about it? Go for launch.
We're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
Ignition sequence start.
My name is Felix and I am your host for today's episode of What About It? And as always, there's been a lot going on in the space industry lately, so let's dive right in. Starship updates. The year is almost over already, 3 more months to go. What does SpaceX have in store for us in the next 12 months and with their Starship program? In today's episode, we'll take a detailed look into the orbital launch test phase. The recently publicized FAA environmental assessment has a treasure trove of new information about SpaceX's plan for the next 12 months, and we'll now look into the details. SpaceX's Starship 20 is still sitting on suborbital Pad A and presumably waiting for better weather. Lewis has been fighting the storm out for you, keeping his camera pointed at the site as much as possible. For example, on Wednesday, September 22nd, workers had to evacuate from their work sites 3 times due to the stormy weather. This, of course, doesn't speed up the process. It didn't keep SpaceX from advancing either, though. The Chopsticks carriage system, for example, now has received 2 extra hinges. Those are equipped with ball bearings and will likely be part of the guidance system. This is a top-down view of the carriage system created by Lunar Caveman, who has been kind enough to provide us with some unique renders for today's episode. It shows the location of the extra hinges. Progress on the chopsticks themselves is considerable as well. The size of the 2 catch arms becomes visible in this picture. It will be an extensive construction. This is a top-down view of the orbital launch mount and the integration tower to scale and in the correct orientation. And this is how the carriage system will attach to the integration tower itself. See the wishbone construction in blue with the newly added hinge? It'll make sure that the carriage system has a firm grip on the tower at all times. Adding in the chopsticks makes the picture complete. You can see again how significant the catch arms actually are. The integration tower is enormous. Once attached to the tower, the catch system will be substantially larger than it looks right now. The system will receive powerful hydraulic actuators to be able to move heavy loads from left to right, as it will also be used for stacking operations. Adding in a Super Heavy booster and the top-down view is complete. A very unique system for a very special rocket, and half a year ago we didn't even know about it yet. SpaceX is going very unconventional ways with this, to say the least. And how do we know that this is actually what it will look like? From SpaceX, of course. This is a depiction of the orbital launch mount, the Starship stack, and the integration tower from the recently publicized FAA environmental assessment for the vertical launch area, or Starbase as we know it. And it shows almost exactly what we already thought it would look like in the end. Black panels will be added to tower and arms to cover up and protect vital systems from the Raptor blast of a Super Heavy launch, but that's it. And SpaceX is close to finishing the construction. And there are a few other fascinating bits of information to be found in the FAA assessment. It's in a public review phase until October 18th, and the public is encouraged to give their opinion. A link to the FAA assessment can be found in the description. SpaceX is planning 5 orbital launches per year. That's not as much as most expected, especially as Musk has stated before that Starships will launch hundreds of missions before flying people. 5 is a bit less than hundreds. Dear Moon is expected for 2023, which will be the first time people fly on a Starship. This bears the question where those launches will happen, if not in Boca Chica. It could also be a sign that the Starship program might be delayed. If there are only 5 orbital launches within the next year, those hundreds of launches would have to be after that, which would most likely delay any human spaceflight activity on board a Starship. There is another location from which SpaceX is still planning to do Starship launches. Seen here in the Inspiration 4 launch broadcast from a few days ago, you can see the beginnings of the Starship orbital pad at Kennedy Space Center's Pad 39A. It hasn't been worked on for a year now, but that could also be because SpaceX doesn't know what it needs to look like in the end. After all, Boca Chica is the testbed for all things Starship. Musk has confirmed several times that the plan still is to also launch Starships from the Cape, which could be one of the reasons why the FAA assessment doesn't mention hundreds of launches out of Boca Chica. Another exciting bit of information from the FAA assessment is the fact that SpaceX is still internally debating whether to integrate a flame diverter and a water deluge system into the Starship orbital launch mounts or not. I took this video in March 2020 when I drove past Pad 39A, and of course I was keen on seeing SpaceX's latest progress on the KSC Starship launch pad. Since then, not much has happened here, but a ramp-like construction could be seen integrated into the structure even back then. This clearly signifies that SpaceX wanted to incorporate a flame diverter into the Starship pad, at least at the Cape. SpaceX also stated in the FAA environmental assessment that they plan to launch out of Boca Chica and from their sea launch platform approximately 19 miles out from the coast. Looking at the Boca Chica starbase from above and measuring a distance of 19 miles or approximately 30 kilometers, this is where Deimos, one of the two SpaceX floating launch platforms, would be located. SpaceX also stated that Deimos would not be attached to the seafloor and that it would stay mobile. Since the oil rig design that SpaceX bought for this endeavor indeed is a floater design, it is a perfect fit for the description. And Deimos will see up to 5 Super Heavy landings in the next year as well. The FAA assessment also states that SpaceX plans to move landed Starships and Super Heavy boosters into Port Brownsville via a barge. SpaceX's current autonomous drone ships are so-called barges, and they are based on the Marmac 303. This type of barge would be capable of doing the trick. The Marmac 303 measures 91 meters in length and 30 meters in width and can carry a little more than 10,000 tons on deck. Since a Super Heavy booster only weighs around 220 tons when empty and a Starship around 120, it could carry the whole stack in theory. This might pose stability issues though. Still, the current autonomous drone ships would likely be able to fulfill the task. Once arrived at Port Brownsville, the rest of the trip back to Starbase would be along Highway 4. What do you think? Could an autonomous drone ship carry a Super Heavy booster or a Starship back to Brownsville? As always, tell me in the comments. On top of all that, SpaceX is also planning to land Starships on islands in the Pacific Ocean once capabilities improve further. Jumping back to the orbital launch mount once more reveals that SpaceX has been very busy again. Systems are being worked on constantly, and they've added flexible fuel lines to the quick disconnect arm attached to the mount itself. Comparing the fuel line to the worker standing next to them reveals the size once more. They're about as wide as a person, which is ridiculous. And then pumps go crazy. It's just, I mean, imagine the flow rate in those. It's amazing. Next up, we'll talk about what to expect in the next 12 months, and we'll compare Booster 4 with the next one in line, Booster 5. Will there be lots of action in Boca Chica, or will there only be 5 launches we can look forward to? And what did SpaceX improve on Booster 5? Stay tuned. The Y family needs your support. Give the video a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends on Twitter or Facebook to show the YouTube algorithm that you appreciate the content. Looking for a more direct way of support? Become a Patreon or YouTube member by clicking the join button right under the video and get some awesome perks. Gain access to our Discord server where you can meet me and the rest of the community, or get a completely ad-free release of each and every episode provided just for channel members. Or do you know about the Y Warehouse? Shop for your next Starship shirt, hoodie, or cap and look as awesome as you feel. Links can be found in the description. You rock! You might be disappointed now because of the 5 orbital launches. To give you some perspective, let me sum up what's in store for SpaceX and for us. SpaceX's plan, at least for the next year, also includes up to 20 suborbital launches. This includes both Starships and Super Heavy boosters, and to high altitudes. Besides the fact that there are only 5 orbital launches planned and up to 20 suborbital ones, there's another interesting fact here. SpaceX is also planning to launch Super Heavy boosters without Starships, so we'll see the boosters go up alone as well. We'll have a total of 25 possible launches in the next 12 months. That's almost a launch every other week. If SpaceX can do this, there will be an incredible amount of action in Boca Chica. Constant prototype construction, testing, static fires, and launches conducted on a bi-weekly basis. constant iteration of the design and continuous improvement of manufacturing capabilities. So even though you might have seen headlines depicting all this as very little, it actually is the opposite, and I would be surprised if SpaceX can actually pull this off. SpaceX also clearly mentions that most launches will end up in the water and that many of those won't even be recovered. They state though that we'll at least see 5 Super Heavy landings on the Sea Launch platform. Plans for the second integration tower and orbital launch mount have also been confirmed once more, so the construction efforts at the launch site won't end either. The cranes will stay, the work will continue at an ever-increasing pace. In the end, SpaceX is also mentioning the prestigious Moon and Mars missions for Boca Chica. Lunar resupply missions will even make rapid launches necessary. All this is planned for Boca Chica and SpaceX's Starbase. And SpaceX is working all hands on deck to make it happen. New ring segments are constantly being spit out of the large tents at the construction site. Booster 5 has recently seen the common dome stacked on top of the lower oxygen tank, and the stack is now 18 rings tall. The design also shows differences to Booster 4 once again. This beautiful shot taken by Mauricio from RGV Aerial Photography shows the entire booster stack inside the high bay. Let's compare the two boosters as to what they looked like inside the high bay. On the left we have a beautiful picture taken by Elon Musk of Booster 4 when it rolled out of the high bay for the first time. On the right we have Mauricio's shot of Booster 5 as to what it currently looks like, and the difference is evident right away. Booster 4 was basically naked when it rolled out to the launch site for the first time. Booster 5, on the other hand, has the whole raceway guide rails installed already. There won't be multiple rollouts to the launch site with the new booster. It will be done right out of the high bay. Yet another indicator for SpaceX getting more confident with each new prototype. So in a nutshell, we can look forward to tons of action in the coming 12 months. Kennedy Space Center might be doing hundreds of Starship launches, and in the worst case, Dear Moon might be delayed, as there might not be enough flights in the books by 2023. If you've heard me talk about Brilliant before, then you know that it's a website and app built off of the principle of active problem solving. Because it takes more to learn something than just watching it. To really learn something, you have to do it. I use Brilliant for my own research and to learn difficult topics I'd otherwise have trouble understanding. Want an intuitive introduction to the essentials of geometry? Or do you want to double down and focus on the core ideas at the heart of calculus? You won't need to memorize long, messy formulas and endless facts. Just pick a course you're interested in and get started. Open your eyes to the world around you by solving puzzles with science. On Brilliant, it's not about memorizing or regurgitating facts for a test. You can just pick a course you're interested in and get started. Feeling stuck or made a mistake, you can read the explanations to find out more and learn at your own pace. If you'd like to try out Brilliant for free and get 20% off a year of STEM learning, click the link in the description down below or visit brilliant.org/whataboutit. Today's supporter shoutout goes to David Baer, Sebastian Rolles and many others. You rock so incredibly much. Without you and countless others, we couldn't even produce this content, so the entire team's gratitude is yours. Make sure to hop on our supporter exclusive Discord to join more than 1,000 spaceflight enthusiasts and to give me the chance to thank you in person. Today's team shoutout goes to Sammy Oscuro for being one of the most loyal members of the team. He's been around since I started broadcasting on YouTube, and he's still here, helping, advising, writing for the website and cheering for Team Space. Thank you for being around, Sammy. Thank you for being a friend and for following the dream together with us. Sammy, you rock. Oh, so close. Environmental. There you go. In the damn. There it is. Excuse me. Which is ridiculous. Oh, god damn it. Yes. Rolles. We couldn't. And to give me the chance to thank you in person. Okay, let's do this once more.